Oh yeah, I thought this would be a lot easier to show you because there were so many different details to cover. I thought I would make a video. If this doesn't work out, do let me know, and I have other people that are likely to be able to come and visit you from the Eccles Health Sciences Library, or we have somebody else who is better with the citation management and impact factor and things like that. But I wanted to show you the two different ways that you can do it, and maybe this will satisfy the information that you were looking for. And there is a ton of information. I'm going to show you two databases. As I had mentioned, Scopus is really great for one thing, and Web of Science is great for another one. You get to determine whether or not that's what you're looking for. Scopus, it doesn't like when you put in the first name. It goes off of a different style. It just wants last name and first initial. I don't know if this would be MW. You can experiment with that. When you do a search, though, it's last name, comma, first initial or initials that you're going through. The problem that we do have that you should be aware of is sometimes, depending on the citation style of the journal or where it's published, you might get one initial, you might get two initials. So beware that there's different iterations of it. When you're doing a search, make sure in Scopus and Web of Science that you're looking for the author specifically. Web of Science is a little more tricky. That's why I placed it in my second place, but Scopus is really cool. But they have overlap, and so some you would, I don't know if you have to do this, but you might check if they have different sets of articles. They do have different sets of journals that they're reviewing, but there's a lot of overlap. When you click search, all you have to do is find one instance of the author's name that you were looking for. In this case, I've already checked because it was that one that we had talked about. When you click on the author's name in this database, it will send you to other articles, but it will also send you to what's called this dashboard of all sorts of different citation and impact reviews. From what I've read, when people talk about impact factor, there's a couple of things that they're looking for, but typically you'll see H factor or H graph. That will come in, and actually that's what this is over here. You can see how many different times somebody has cited a particular set of articles in a year is impact factor in a nutshell. But you can see things like H-index. There's a whole bunch of different things going on. H-graph, it's likely that this is what we're looking for. H-graph shows how many times people have been cited and their future for potential growth. This is listed with a whole mess of data that you get to look at and you get to go through. But you can see the number of articles that had the highest number of citations and so on and so forth. When you look at this little calendar right over here, you can also see that there's a big drop-off in 2017. It's because the year isn't over yet, and there's still some months of publications coming up. But you can see that it's like an upward trend. The number of citations should show up here, but you can also see the number of times that things have been cited and the years that they were published. All of those things contribute to that H factor, but there's all sorts of different ways of measuring it. So I would look for clarity in what that impact factor should be. It's probably number of times cited in a year, but it could be other things as well. When you go to Web of Science, you can do the full name. This is one we looked at earlier over the phone. Again, you want to put in the author. When you do a search, again, it might be M, it might be MW for that. You're not able to click on this quite as easily. All it is an author search. So what you would have to do is go through and make sure that all of those iterations were the ones that you were looking for. Now I noticed later, farther down this list, there was somebody with a first initial M, and that was somebody who was working in, I think, architecture or something different. So you would have to do just a quick search and make sure that it was topic specific to the oncology in the Huntsman Institute that you were working with. So it's not as automatic as the other ones. I wouldn't necessarily narrow down to the years, but what you would do is you would narrow down that list to what you were looking for. And I think safely we can say that it was just this one, but you could double check and see there's the number of articles published. The only problem we have with this one is that the principal investigator, the first author, is not denoted in this. So if we have the person as a contributing author, it doesn't necessarily make a differentiation in this factoring of the citation. But if you go to the Create Citation Report, here that H-index shows up again. And here we can see the number of times that the articles have been cited by other ones. So you can see the number of times that other scholarly significant articles were cited. So this is based off of that results list that you generated. There are ways of narrowing and expanding those lists, and I would experiment with that. But when you clicked on the View Citations, is that what it was? Create Citation Report. That's where you're going to get into that. So Scopus does it differently, and Web of Science does it differently. And there's some overlap, but it's not a lot of ambiguity. It's pretty much citing the results of the author or the search results that you have in there. If you have any questions, I'm going to include those other references on the email list. And feel free to contact me if this isn't what you were looking for, and I'm quite happy to help. And I hope this video works out. Have a good one.